World War II spread throughout the world like wildfire. Heavy fighting lasted around the world until the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where the U.S. unveiled their newest weapon, the atomic bomb. The atomic bomb changed warfare forever. On August 29, 1949, the Soviet Union detonated their first atomic bomb. The Cold War quickly escalated and arms built up between the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc versus the United States and NATO countries. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, was formed by the US, Canada, and several Western European countries to provide protection against the Soviet Union throughout the Cold War. NATO is still active in the 21st century after the downfall of the Soviet Union. The Eastern Bloc was a group of communist countries in Central and Eastern Europe, as well as East and Southeast Asia. The Eastern Bloc dissolved in 1989 after a wave of revolutions swept many of the countries involved. Multiple proxy wars were fought between the Eastern and Western powers during the Cold War, including well-known conflicts as Vietnam and Korea. Due to mad, mutually assured destruction, an uneasy peace was forced between the two nuclear powers of the world throughout the mid to late 20th century. The United States of America built multiple air bases across the globe to respond to any and all nuclear threats from the Soviet Union. One base in particular, in eastern Washington, has had a profound effect on the surrounding community of Moses Lake. Moses Lake, Washington is a quickly growing town in eastern Washington, sitting around Moses Lake. The town has grown tremendously the last few years, and today it has over 23,000 residents. The town was founded as an appel in 1911, but due to legal trouble over water rights, it was severely restricted in growth. By 1913, the city regained water rights, and a group of 300 men were determined to end the town's isolation with the construction of Highway 10. The residents also supported the Columbia Basin Irrigation Project and the Grand Coulee Dam. In 1938, the town changed its name to Moses Lake and became the quickest growing town in Washington state. Moses Lake Army Air Base was constructed as a temporary training field on November 24, 1942. During World War II, its job was to train pilots to fly the P-38 Lightning fighter aircraft. Later in the war, it trained B-17 crews for combat. It served throughout the war until 1945 when the base went into inactive status, but it was still used extensively by Boeing to test new aircraft. The upgraded B-29, the B-50, and the B-47 Stratojet were both extensively tested at Moses Lake during the 3-year inactive state. On November 26, 1948, the Air Force acquired the Moses Lake Army Air Base and renamed it Moses Lake Air Force Base. It served to protect the Hanford Atomic Works and the Grand Coulee Dam from air raids. F-82 twin Mustangs first filled the interceptor role, along with later F-51D Mustangs, F-80 Shooting Stars, and F-86 Sabres. Hanford Atomic Works played a major role in the Manhattan Project to construct the original atomic bombs and produce material for new weapons, while the Grand Coulee Dam provided hydropower to the entire Pacific Northwest region. Both Hanford and Grand Coulee were strategic points of interest during the Cold War, as they were potential targets for bombers and missiles. In May of 1950, the base was renamed Larson Air Force Base after Donald A. Larson, a pilot from Yakima, Washington, who flew 57 combat missions over Germany during World War II. He and his P-51 Mustang were shot down over Ulsan, Germany. A major tragedy struck Larson Air Force Base on December 20, 1952. After the fighter squadron stationed at Larson was called for service in Korea, C-124 cargo aircraft were largely flown out of Larson. During an operation to bring U.S. soldiers home for Christmas from Korea, a C-124 crashed upon takeoff, killing 87 servicemen in an instant. The plane broke apart into a fiery inferno after attempting to take off from Larson due to the left wing striking the ground. Initially, 32 men survived, but 3 later died in the hospital. The crash was the worst airplane crash in the history up to that point until 6 months later when another C-124 crashed near Tokyo. Later investigations showed that the rudder and elevator locks are still engaged, making the plane unable to gain altitude or steer. On September 25, 1962, Multiple Titan I missile silos came under the command of Larson Air Force Base. The construction project provided jobs for many of Moses Lake residents, including Arnold Springer.
59 to 63 was a carpenter. I built scaffolding 61 years ago.
The missile served for 3 years after construction, before being shut down and moved inland. In 1964, it was announced that Larson, like many other bases around the country, are to be permanently closed to cut costs.
The B-52s left, and they were selling the housing.
In 1965, the Port of Moses Lake was formed to decide the fate of the airfield. The colonel who closed the air base, Clyde Owen, became the first director of the Port of Moses Lake. Options put forth included clearing the land for a cattle feedlot. Its best use was as an airfield, Leon Bodie, the port commissioner, said. After a decision was made to keep the airport, the first client, Boeing, returned and offered $120,000 to get the port through its first year. In exchange, Boeing received good weather and clear skies to test the first 747 airliners. By 1968, Japan Airlines made Moses Lake their permanent training center for 747 pilots until 2009. One accident occurred in 1969 when a Japan Airlines jet was unable to take off, killing 3 of the 5 crew members aboard. The crash was a result of an engine-out drill when the pilot lost control. It careened over another runway and caught fire. This was the only major Japan Airlines accident in the airport's history. Despite setbacks, it became famous for its long runway, which even served as a secondary runway for the NASA space shuttles. In 1966, Big Bend Community College made the airport its main campus and utilized the airfield for pilot training and airplane maintenance programs. It was the first college-accredited flight school in the nation. Soon, the airport attracted even more clients. In 1974, a Concorde visited Moses Lake for a month. Even though it was only there for a month, the crew rechristened it Miss Moses Lake. By 1988, 280 airlines used the port for pilot training programs. In 1988 alone, the airport made $1.7 million, or $3,617,163.14 today. Boeing, Union Carbide, and Columbia Steel fabricators became major clients on the 4,500-acre site. Many companies who operated in the port were from Japan, further strengthening Moses Lake's relationship with Japan. Larson provided 8 civilian jobs before closure. Just the airport alone after the conversion provided 825 jobs to Moses Lake. In 1998, the Port of Moses Lake received a new terminal and a new name, Moses Lake International Airport. Moses Lake quickly became the industrial center of central Washington. Many famous places who have visited the port included Bruce Willis while filming Die Hard 2, Prince Philip, and Tom Selleck. In 2012, the Antonov 225, the world's largest airplane, landed at Grant County International Airport. The airport has left a massive economic impact on Moses Lake, from Mitsubishi to Boeing, turning a small military town into the powerhouse of central Washington. To this day, it is still widely used and has a major role in pilot training and industrial business.
Mobility Guardian exercise with the U.S. Air Force Air Mobility Command brought close to 1,000 active duty, guard, and reserve men, joint military forces, and international partners to the Moses Lake Air Base.